The next item tonight is a proposal to participate in development of Joseph Street Playfields development, again, presented by Gary Reedner and Dwight Curtis. And we will likely take a brief recess after this agenda item, just so it doesn't get to be too late in the evening, but,
Can I just ask a question about the last issue?
sure, Gary, before you start.
Just
then-
a fee question. Do we now schedule a fee hearing for setting fees that are anything changed above 5% over last year
I-
or current fees?
If it's
Is
above
that true?
5%.
What the question was?
Is that true?
It's about the.
Do we now set a fee hearing for anything that's above 5% of current? Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah,
in this
we will bring a fee proposal back to the council
Okay.
for a couple of reasons. It may not be over 5%, but it is a different service, and council likely will want to have a public hearing on that. The next step in the motion also addressed was that now we need to propose a modification of services to our franchisee, Lehigh Sanitation. So we've got to start that process as well.
Okay, thanks.
As I recall, we left a gap in the budget, or in the fee resolution, to accommodate some eventuality pertaining to this
Yeah,
action tonight, didn't we?
Actually, what we did is we had alternative fees in there. One was for the proposed 35, 65, 95, and the other was for our current service. So we wouldn't have to have another fee hearing when the rollout service was initiated. So now that it's changed, we will definitely bring a different proposal back to council.
Okay, Walter?
On the same topic, thank you, Mayor. If you don't mind, biweekly reports to Public Works Finance.
I would miss them if you didn't request them.
Okay, so now we really are going to talk about the proposal to participate in development of Joseph Street Playfields.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. What you have before you tonight is a fairly extensive memo and packet relating to the so-called Joseph Street Ball Field project. As the packet indicates, there have been discussions with Moscow School District and the City of Moscow for a long time, at least the last dozen years, with differing outcomes. We're happy to have Superintendent Dale Kleinert, and I believe Margaret Dibble of the school board is here, so very pleased to have them. I'm happy to say that, as you know, late or early last summer, there were discussions between the school district and the City of Moscow as to, or at least approaches by the City of Moscow to the school district to determine whether or not there could be some involvement between the city and the school district in the eventual development of the Joseph Street playfields. This was a direct result of City Council's goal from FY 2012 that indicated, stated, develop and implement a strategy for development of ball fields and parkland within the city. This goal supersedes previous goals to develop the West Palouse River Drive Ball Fields project. That was no comment on the value of the Palouse River Drive property. Certainly, there was no attachment to that particular facility was not extremely valuable to the city. It's just that the council wanted to move ahead with ball fields on some other property, at least for the moment. As I indicated, there were discussions had with the school district, had several meetings. The mayor, myself, other elected officials and staff had contacted Superintendent Kleinert. We had discussions, and it was determined at that time that there were some proposed negotiations that really didn't go anywhere. There was a proposal sent by the school district, a counter proposal sent back by the city. That I believe, if my recollection is correct, last fall, the school district Board of Trustees determined that they were going to go out for a capital bond or a facilities levy in order to address some capital needs of the school district, and that they set a facilities committee to take a look at that and bring ideas back to the district. And one of those committees was going to look at the potential of development of the Joseph Street playfields as an element of that committee. That was done, and there was a just to backtrack a moment, there were some proposals that were based upon a 1999 ball fields master plan for Joseph Street property that was prepared by Hodge and Associates. Some staff time was involved in looking at updating the cost of that plan, which again was done in 1999. So the discussion, or at least the estimate that was put out at that time, was approximately $1.9 to $2 million to finish out that proposed master plan. During the school district's facility study, that master plan concept was shared with a firm out of the Treasure Valley known as the Land Group, which did an updated estimate of the cost of the play fields. Their estimate came in at just a few dollars short of $3 million. Dale Kleinert approached City Council and indicated that the school district Board of Trustees was going to proceed with either a facilities levy or a bond for their capital needs, including Joseph Street, and that out of that approximately $10 to $10.8 million capital levy or bond, that $1.5 million would be placed or place held for development of the Joseph Street playfields. Again, that would not serve under either the Hodge master plan if those prices were in fact updated, and we were talking about $2 million, certainly would only be about half of what the $3 million price tag would be for the land group estimate. So at that point, there were discussions back and forth. An informal meeting was held, as indicated in the backup. Mayor Cheney was there, Council President Walter Steed, myself, Parks and Rec Director Dwight Curtis, several representatives of the school district, the chairman of the Board of Trustees, chairperson, Don Fazio, Superintendent Dale Kleinert, Deb Adair, business manager, Bill Marino, who's the principal of West Park School and also was on the facilities committee, and Greg Papineau, who has been, as you know, a frequent visitor in front of this council as well as the school district, discussing his advocacy for the playfields. During that discussion, or during that meeting, during which several concepts were discussed, there was discussion of how the city council or the city of Moscow could potentially participate in the development of the Joseph Street playfields. Serving both the city's needs for playfields for their youth, as well as meeting the school district's needs for their playfields. And also in the master plan, before I forget, the school districts, one of their main concerns was that the original purpose for the purchase of the Joseph Street site was for placement of a school on that site. There have been several discussions over the past 15 years about that, and a footprint in the southwest corner of the Joseph Street site was what was determined to be the footprint for a school. So in any development, that would want to be maintained, and I'll address that in a few moments. As the council knows, Bobby Hamilton gave almost $8 million to the city in the early 2000s for the benefit, or to the Parks and Rec Department of the City of Moscow for the benefit of young children, is how his will reads. So the council at that time formed what they called the Hamilton Dream Team 1, Hamilton Dream Team 2, made up of community members, elected officials, representatives of different stakeholder groups to determine what the priorities for use of that funding could be used for the benefit of children within the city of Moscow. The first on the list at that time was the Hamilton Indoor Recreational Facility. That was constructed, dedicated in 2004. It was financed through certificates of participation, which was a financing vehicle that we were allowed to use at that time that since has become less attractive. But what it allowed us to do was to take the corpus, or the balance of the Hamilton Fund, and essentially generate interest off the investments, use it to pay an advance bonding, if you will, or a mortgage. The end result would be, if your interest rate was high enough at the end of the mortgage, that you would have your original investment when you were done. City Council passed a resolution at that time that they wanted to use the Hamilton Fund, or restrict it, at least from a policy standpoint, mainly for the use, even though it doesn't restrict the council legally, for the use of amortizing the certificates of participation, as well as generating income for the council to use to offset the operational costs of the Hamilton Indoor Recreation Center. Again, that was done in 2004. Since that time, you recall last fall, Don Palmer, with the assistance of D.A. Davidson, our financier on the certificates of participation, did some analyses, brought it forth, and determined that if the council continued to pay off the certificates of participation through their term to maturity, that we would actually use up more of the corpus of the Hamilton Fund than if we called those certificates of participation and paid them off. That was done, authorized and done in December. I believe, Don, wasn't it December? Leaving just over $5 million in the Hamilton Fund. As Don indicated, you have a memo in your packet that the Hamilton Fund at this point, and all kudos to Don and his staff. As you know, in the reports and the budget every year indicate that Don and his staff have been very good at investing the city's funds and getting more from those funds than we could be able to get in the local government investment pool. Even at that, in the current investment climate, Don indicates that he's able to obtain interest rates or interest income off each $1 million of the Hamilton Fund in the range of $20,000 to $30,000. So for each full $1 million increment, it's generating between $20,000 and $30,000 per year. So looking at the Hamilton Fund, that we had the $5 million balance. If there was an opportunity for the city to partner, collaborate, and participate with the school district, what would the financing vehicle for that participation look like? As the council knows, it's not like we have millions of dollars laying around in the general fund. Most of our capital is tied up in enterprise funds and street projects, unavailable to utilize for participation in ball fields. The Hamilton Fund is the one exception to that. So the discussion that was had during this informal meeting was, if the school district was interested under certain conditions, if the city would participate up to $1 million of the Hamilton Fund in the development of the Joseph Street playfields. Again, it was a discussion point. There was discussion of what conditions the city might make that available. And I will talk about those in a moment. As I indicated, the land group's proposal or estimate is $3 million. The $1.5 million commitment from the school district, should the school board agree that this is something they want to do, and if they invite the city to collaborate with them, what would that look like? If the city were to add $1 million or participate up to $1 million, should I say $1 million with the 1.5 million, would leave about a $500,000 shortfall from the land group's estimate. At this point, there have been discussions about the citizen groups, the community groups, individuals, volunteers who've come forward and were ready to participate on Joseph Street at some point in the past, and certainly on the West Palouse River Drive ball fields back in the early 2000s. So there may be some opportunities for that. Preliminary contact has been made with the Idaho National Guard Armory here in Moscow. Contact was made with them because they've actively solicited Mayor Cheney for community projects. If the city has any community projects, keep them in mind. So the mayor contacted them. They do have an interest, of course.
Just
They're on.
for accuracy, though, Gary, it was I contacted Gowanfield, Boise.
Okay.
And spoke to the general there, so not the local
Certainly.
but he has oversight.
Okay. So at any rate, and of course, everything's preliminary, and the contact was made merely to see if they were still interested. The idea, of course, is that that $500,000 shortfall may be made up with that community support and from interested people. So the discussion that we had on at this preliminary meeting was for proposal to the council tonight of $1 million participation proposal, I should say, with the Moscow School District Board of Trustees. I will make it clear that already we have talked to the chairman or chairperson of the MSD Board of Trustees, Don Fazio, who was present during that meeting, and Superintendent Dale Kleinert. The official proposal has not been put before the School District Board of Trustees because no authorization has been forthcoming from the council until tonight.